All right, the second injury that we commonly see in our office related to volleyball players is a shoulder pain. Obviously with volleyball, we are doing a lot of swinging, so injuries to the shoulder are pretty common. So one of the things that I do want to mention before this, this is probably not due to a flexibility issue that is going to be resolved by stretching. A lot of these kids are already pretty mobile to begin with. It's probably due to a strength issue and a biomechanics issue. So the first thing that we want to address with shoulder pain in a volleyball player is improving some of the motion through his thoracic spine. So basically from about here to here, we want to move really well through there. And that allows us to go into this big bow and arrow and open up our shoulders to generate some rotational power and hit the ball with more pace. So what Dr. Zach here is going to do, he's going to go into like a modified quadruped position. He's going to sit his butt back to his heels, take his right hand, put it on his the back of his neck here, and then he's going to try to take his elbow, try to touch his other elbow or other knee, and then he's going to open up, get some nice pops in his back, and we're going to go through this motion. By moving back here, this kind of blocks down his low back and focuses a lot of the motion through his mid-back or thoracic spine, which we're trying to improve on. So step one, for anybody dealing with shoulder pain, we really want to open up some thoracic rotation and extension, and this is a great exercise to do that. All right, exercise 2 of the shoulder pain in volleyball players is going to be a progression of these kind of side-lying positions. So the first one here, Dr. Zach is going to focus on laying onto the affected shoulder. So whatever shoulder you swing with or you're having pain with, that's going to be the bottom shoulder in this situation. So he's going to lay nice and right on top of that. We're going to make sure that this shoulder is directly on top of this shoulder, okay? And his goal here is for maybe like a 10-second hold. He's going to drive his elbow as hard as he can into the table or the floor, whatever you're doing this on. And by doing that, we're trying to reset some of the muscles and refire some of these muscles in the back part of his shoulder around like the rotator cuff, and kind of give the front part of the shoulder some time off here. So he's going to continue to drive as hard as he can, and if I try to pull his elbow away, he's going to try to fight that. From there, a progression that we can go to is something called an open book exercise. So again, he's going to stay nice and stacked here, and what he's going to do is he's going to rotate the top half of his body away from this shoulder, the bottom shoulder, and make sure that he keeps his elbow down the whole time. So imagine like a book, we're opening the covers of the book and then we're closing the book, okay? And the whole time he's focusing all of his energy here and on this downside knee. And again, we're really warming up the back part of the shoulder. This is called an open book exercise. The last part of the progression is pretty challenging exercise, is something called an uprighting exercise. So again, we're going to stay nice and stacked. He's dealing with right-sided shoulder pain. And what we're trying to do here is, again, strengthen some of the muscles in the back part of the shoulder and give some stress relief to the muscles on the front part of the shoulder. So what he's going to do is try to lift his body up off the table using his elbow as a pivot point, keeping his shoulder blade nice and flat on his back here. So again, he's going to come up. We're creating space between his chest here and the table, and we're really isolating movement around the shoulder joint and building some strength in the back part of the shoulder. Again, what we mentioned earlier, a lot of times shoulder pain in volleyball players is not due to a stretch or a flexibility issue. It's due to a strength issue and a biomechanics issue. So from here, we can really start to isolate individual movement of the shoulder joint. So let's go through a couple more. Go to the top. Again, nice, slow, and controlled. Really focusing a lot of attention to the back part of the shoulder here. And we're building some strength in the rotator cuff. That was exercise number 2. Exercise 3 of shoulder pain in a volleyball player rehab is going to be a face pull, external rotation, and overhead press. And the goal here is try to build some strength in the overhead position here. So these are going to be 3 distinct movements. So the first movement is going to be like a face pull or a high row. He's going to then go into external rotation and then press the weight up overhead. All right, we're challenging a lot of the rotator cuff muscles as well as some of the other muscles in the back here. But I want it to be a distinct motion instead of this that motion, okay? The last thing that I do want to mention here is we want to make sure that we're not losing this rib cage position and he's not going into this kind of overarched low back position. to try to get the bands further behind you. So he's got to use the front here, his ab muscles, to keep his rib cage down and focus the motion here through the shoulder joints. So this was a face pull to an overhead press. All right, the last exercise of shoulder rehab for volleyball players is going to be a thing that we call the bear position. So he's going to get in a quadruped or on his hands and knees. And the first progression here is we're basically just going to hover maybe 1 inch or 2 inches off of the floor. What he's really focusing on right now is pushing the earth away really hard. So we're trying to bring this part of her spine out between her shoulder blades, and he's keeping his chin in a good position. We're not having his head tipped up or his chin's not falling down below or anything like that. We've got a very solid spine through here, and he's really just pushing the earth away. So that would be the first position, would be just hovering about maybe 1 inch or 2 inches off the floor. From there, we can go into that bear position, and then we can go into something that we call high bear. So he's kind of shooting his butt back at an angle, and we're really challenging the movement of the shoulder blades. Again, he's focusing right here, pushing the earth super hard away from him and making sure that his back stays nice and solid through here. So that would be a bear to high bear transition. And the last one, and this is going to be, I'm not going to lie, it's going to be a really challenging exercise, so we can see how well Dr. Zach does here. We're going to go into that bear position. We're going to transition up into high bear. And now we're going to lift the hand and try to limit as much movement down here as possible. So he comes back down, he lifts the other hand. He keeps pushing this as hard and as much as he can away from him. Push hard, push into the earth, and then we can come down from there. So that would be a bear, a high bear, and then a bear to high bear, where we're isolating individual arm stability here. And the goal here is to build some strength around the shoulder blade, and then we can start to focus on some of the movement of the shoulder blade as well. So this would be exercise 4 of the shoulder rehab in a volleyball player.